First, I'd like to welcome everybody here, and the veterans especially. It always gets, for me, exciting for Veterans Day, and one day a year, but we need to remember every day the sacrifices that have been in our armed forces, different places around the world. Of course, in my life growing up, I had a grandfather that served in World War I in France, and another grandfather that was in World War II. I believe he was his stateside. My father in the Korean War, and then some time in the National Guard. So got some perspective there from those individuals too. That it's not easy to be a veteran and to serve our country sometimes. But it's a great service, and they felt very prideful of their service. So I do get excited about this, and as a history teacher, also looking at the history of our country and the things that we've gone through. So with that, thank you again for coming and welcome, and I'll turn it over to our MC, Mr. Wayne Woodmaska.
Thank you, Dr. Boyd. On the 11th day, the 11th hour of the 11th month of 1918, the conflict of World War I was ceased by an armistice, which was not a peace treaty necessarily, but it just stopped the fighting that took place. And a treaty was later signed at Versailles by the people involved. And the war, for the First World War, one of the greatest wars in the world, ended at that time. And as I was growing up, my family, my mother always called Armistice Day, not Veterans Day. And the Veterans Day was made popular by the Congress to honor all veterans. And so that's what we're doing here today, as Dr. Wayne said. With that, we're going to have the presentation of the colors by the American Legion Post 130 of Kimball. If you'd all stand, please, and remain standing while the national anthem is played, and also while the Pledge of Allegiance is given by our kindergarten class, and then we may be seated. So let's all stand for the presentation.
Color guard, attention! Right shoulder, arms. Forward, march! Color guard, post! Post, colors! Stand. Arms. Order. On. Color guard. Reassemble. Rifleman. About face. Forward, right shoulder, arm. Forward, arm. Color guard, hold. Ball.
May be seated. Let's have the kindergarten kids stand, please. Let's have the kindergarten stand. Let's give an applause for that. The choir lines are assembled while we talk just a bit. The choir. Back in the day when World War I started, the United States got into that, there was a guy by the name of John McCrae, who was a Canadian doctor, who was a member of the armed forces of the Canadian Armed Forces. And the conflict in Europe was going on quite a while before the United States got into it. And he was there in 1915 in the trenches with one of his friends, Alex Helmer, was killed by artillery fire and was buried on the battlefield. And he felt so badly about this that he was a poet, he wrote this poem, and it's called In Flanders Field. And I'm going to read this prior to the time that they sing. Flanders Field is in Belgium, and it's where many soldiers, there's a cemetery in that area. And if you recall, some of us older people recall when the people at the Legion used to sell poppies, these little handmade poppies, and the money that went to that went to support veterans. But they sold with these poppies, we're talking about all these poppies that grew in Flanders Field. So this poem by John McCrae. In Flanders Field the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Field. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you your failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. If he be faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though pat poppies grow in Flanders Field. Let us listen now to the Kimball High School Choir under the direction of Rebecca Rest.
Thank you, Mr. Dresser. I just want to give a little background to our song. Welcome Home is written by my cousin Jill Fitzgerald. She would be the granddaughter of the late Gertrude Schumann of White Lake. She wrote this, she's a Parkston native. She wrote this song in response to 9/11, and she had lost two of her high school classmates / friends in the fighting in the Middle East. So Mrs. Tiffany Theory is here to accompany us this morning.
Since this is Veterans Day, let's recognize our veterans. So would all the veterans please stand in here? The ones that are veterans, please stand. And if you look around, I know, first of all, I guess I always shut out. Those that are in the Army Corps, would they please raise your hand or step forward or whatever. Army Corps. And I think that's the basic one we have. Army Corps. Air Force. There's the Air Force. No over here. Navy. Any Navy people? Marines. Got some Marines. Coast Guard. Some people don't remember that the Coast Guard is part of our national thing. Air Force, Marines. Let's give all these veterans a hand for serving the country. Also, just as to note what goes on in this country, particularly in South Dakota, with all those that they know in their families that have veterans in the family, please raise your hand. Just raise your hand. Who knows if they got a veteran in their family? And if you look around, there's probably no hand not raised. And South Dakota is well known for the fact that we participate in our armed services. Thank you, veterans. Thank you for serving our country. We now have some special music by Paul Cozine. Paul, you want to come forward? Paul is known by you as one of our bus drivers. And Paul, as you know, just recently got married. And I asked him how his marriage going. He said he knows that because they couldn't get it done sooner. So Paul, would you want to come forward? You want to use the podium up here?
Thank you very much for letting me be a part of this. Veterans, you're awesome. To do the Battle Hymn of the Republic, and I wanted to just let you know a little bit about the song. It is now approaching 150 years old. It's been used in wartime and in peace. Used to honor many folks, including President Kennedy. Nowadays, I use it to honor our local vets, past, present, and future. I extend a hand and say, welcome home. And I know a lot of you know this song, so of course, you may sing along if you like. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord, trampling out the victories where the grapes of the wrath are stored. Faithful lightning in his terrible swift sword, truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. He has sounded forth that you'll never call retreat. He is sifting out the hearts of men before the judgment seat. Be swift to his soul to answer, be jubilant by deeds. God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. Beauty of the lilies, Christ was born across the sea.
Thank you, Paul. That was very inspiring. It's one of those songs that gives us all a patriotic flair about what's going on with us. I'm going to be spoken to have a speech today by for this special day from Commander Sergeant retired John Hire. John Hire was born in Lake Andes, so he's a native South Dakota, was in the South Dakota National Guard since 1981, and then eventually was worked in 31 years in his military career. He did various tours of duty, particularly he was in Afghanistan, and he received several awards during his time, the Legion of Merit, the Bronze Star Medal, various commendation medals, overseas ribbon. He is married to Marjorie and has 3 children, Christopher, Marshall, and Jill. I think he said one's in the service now. Which one's in the service?
The oldest one, Christopher.
Christopher's in the Air Force, you said, in the Air Force. And now he works for the Corps of Engineers over at Fort Thompson as a program analyst. So with that, let's welcome Commander Sergeant retired John Taylor.
First of all, thank you for inviting me here this morning to speak to you and kind of give you a little insight on Veterans Day and what it is to be a veteran. I'm going to kind of make this kind of a community and school participation type of thing. So we'll start off with just a little bit about Armistice Day, or as we know now, Veterans Day. We recognize the ceasefire signed in World War I on November 11, 1918 at 11 a.m., the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. It was designated for those who fought in World War I, which was supposed to be a war to end all wars. Unfortunately, it was not. In 1954, following World War II and the Korean War, Congress replaced armistice with veterans to honor American veterans of all wars. My little speech today is going to focus on 3 questions. Who are veterans? What led them to military service? And how can we honor our country's veterans? And this is where the participation comes in. I'm going to start off with probably talking to kids over here on my left and your right, and ask them, who are veterans? How do you recognize that? Who can tell me about that? How about you down here in front? I'm going to kind of pass it.
That they fight for the army.
Okay, they fight for the army.
Veterans are heroes. That one time, veterans came out because a world battle was created. The 2 twin towers were going down and they had to save people.
Very good. How about you down here?
Well, some soldiers died.
Okay, some soldiers died.
Some armies died.
Okay, we kind of get an idea there. Now, how about here in town? How do you know these people over here are veterans? How can you tell that? How about you here?
Veterans help the people are trying to be safe to help themselves. Veterans fight under armies.
Very good. I think we kind of got an idea there of what they see as what a veteran is and how you can recognize them. Most times, though, you can't recognize who a veteran is. They're just part of the community. They're families, they're friends, they're co-workers. Just going about doing the normal business of the day, and so it's kind of hard to recognize them unless you're wearing a hat for the American Legion or the VFW, or you happen to see them in a parade where they put the uniform back on again. But normally they're just normal folks like the rest of us. Okay, now I'm going to go to the veteran side of the house and ask them the second question. Why did you join? Who's willing to? Want to start?
So I joined the National Guard because I had two grandpas that were in the Air Force and the National Guard. I had some uncles that were in the Guard, so that's why I joined the National Guard.
Okay. How about up over here? When you two want to?
They sent me a letter and said I'm gonna go.
Okay. That's part of it too. So, let's go to our Legion crew over here and see what they have to say. Why did you join?
I joined the Guards because the guy that just got the letter to join, that's kind of what I wanted to follow.
I joined the Guards because I knew I wanted to be part of the military, because I had several families, great grandpas and uncles that were all military, and also most of my brothers and sisters that way. One of my brothers and one of my sisters were all on the military side.
I joined the military because of grandpa, my uncle served, and I wanted to follow their footsteps too.
U.S. Army, 1960, 61, 62, 65, 66.
Okay, so you kind of see from the veterans some of the reasons why they ended up joining the military. And, I kind of go on my own experience as well. I had some of my high school friends that had joined at the time. My dad was in the service. My uncle was in the service as well. And there was also another thing that kind of led to me joining, and I'm sure it's the same with all the other veterans that are here too, is just that pride and that willingness to serve our country. And I think that's kind of the key, is the willingness to serve. And, there are many different reasons. We heard draft, that at one time was a method for getting our young men and eventually, some of the women too, into the military. So, but the overall underlying theme is it's because of their dedication to the country and their willingness to serve that country. Okay, the next thing I'm going to ask you is, all right, what can we do to honor, these men and women that have served? It's easy to, just say, all right, Veterans Day, we're going to recognize them that day. But there are other times where we can recognize veterans as well. First of all, if you happen to see a veteran, tell them thank you. Something simple as that is all it takes. And they will, be very appreciative to you, for letting them know that you recognize them for what they've done for the country. Another thing you can do, this is probably a better one than most, is if you do recognize a person as a veteran, ask them about some of their stories, of the things that they went through as a veteran. And especially the ones that were in the Korean War. There's not too many from World War II around anymore. Even the Vietnam veterans are becoming fewer and fewer too. Ask them their story. Find out some of the things that they've done. That carries that legacy on down to, the next generation. So that way we can, keep that story going. Other things you can do. Fly the United States flag. Display those little symbols, those we support our troops. There used to be stickers all over the cars and, different vehicles around the community. Don't see those quite as much anymore. Bring them out again. Put them back on your vehicles. That's where you show your support to the veterans. Another thing, for the ones that are serving right now, write letters. You can write a letter to any soldier sending off to the Army Post Office, APO, and it'll get there. When I was in Afghanistan, I received dozens of letters from school kids asking me how things were going over there, what I was doing, and I was very happy to be able to respond to each and every one of them and let them know exactly what was happening with my little piece of the war. So that way, I can kind of share that story as well. Okay, another thing you can do, when the national anthem is being played, stand for the flag as it passes by. Remove your headgear. Show your respect by either placing your hand over heart or, paying attention to the colors as they pass by. If you have a veteran that's made a supreme sacrifice, that has died in service, the family that is a part of that is going through a lot of pain and grief. Be there to support them. That makes a difference. And finally, probably the easiest way is to become involved in your community. Don't be afraid to volunteer. Take part in all the little ceremonies that are happening out there, whether it be Veterans Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July. Show your patriotism at the time. The veterans notice that, and they're very appreciative of that as well. Okay, that's pretty much all I really had to say about it. In conclusion, our military is the best in the world. It's mainly due to the men and the women that have served and that continue to serve. The people make the difference. We have some of the best equipment in the world, but that's not what does it. It's, these veterans and the ones that are going to be veterans. That's where the real difference is. And that's why we are so successful at what we do. Our life is preserved, and the freedoms that we have today were, due to a lot of different things. But mainly, we try to avoid conflict as much as possible. And it's that fear that the Coast Guard cutter, the Navy aircraft carrier, the Air Force fighter squadron, the Marines, and the Army soldier on the ground that keep us from getting into more wars and conflicts than we actually do. I ask you to please remember the selfless service and heroic actions of our veterans by paying honor to our great country. And that's the best we can do. Thank you for being here. God bless America, and may God bless our veterans. Thank you.
I think one of the things that I could hear the other veterans saying, that a lot of us, their family history, that there's a family history of the grandfather or the dad or whoever. Also, as I was introducing the veterans around, this is the first one of these I've ever had a participation part in, that we haven't had a World War II veteran. One of our last World War II veterans passed away. Nick Emerson always used to come to this thing and was part of our crowd. And now those are going away because of the time element there. The next one, the Korean War, was back in the early 50s. And those people are leaving us too. So, but as John said, let's thank our veterans on days like today particularly for having served our country. With the choir please, or the band please assemble, I guess they already are assembled. We're going to have another please by them. Then the color guards will retire the colors, and we're excused to honor veterans. Oh, one thing I did forget about, one group of people. Do we have any National Guard people in our high school group? Anybody, any members of the National Guard? We've had in the past people, not this time. Okay, anyway, let's listen to this people. These are Forgotten Heroes by Jeremy Kimball, Kimball High School Band.
Thank you.
Color guard, attention. Right shoulder, arms. Forward, arms. Color guard, halt. Flag bearers, post. Rifleman, port, arms. Present, arms. Order, arms. Reassemble. Rifleman, right shoulder, arms. About, face. Forward, arms. Squad, hold. Fall out.